something worse. Yeah, he played knight to g4. So perhaps hoping to play queen f2 and just force an exchange of material and save the game, but this loses. Kornasov either didn't see the move right away or wanted to repeat to gain time on the clock, so we played bishop a4 check, king a6, bishop b5, king b6, and this time he saw it, bishop to d7 check, and this wins the game. So the game only went one more move, king a6, rook e6, and black resigned here on move 25, because after b6, bishop b5 check, okay, if king a2, then bishop d2 is mate next move. So king to b7, but then queen g7 check, and if king b8, then bishop f4 is mating, and on queen c7, then rook e7, white wins the queen and will force mate very quickly. So, you know, there's some other variations that I give in the PGN file, but it was still a very attractive game, and it shows that black is living a bit on the edge in this variation. I mean, he can very quickly get into a lot of trouble. Well, Malakhatko defended quite well for a long time, but still, it just took one mistake in a very, very razor-sharp position, and he lost. So this is quite a dangerous line for black to play. And as we'll see, Gelfand didn't do any better. So instead of c5, Gelfand played bishop to e7. Safety first. He's just going to castle, and he can always play c5 later. Okay, back to Gashimov's game. So Gashimov played bishop to d3. And now Gelfand played c5. But I think this is slightly inaccurate. I think he should castle straight away. And in fact, this happened in a correspondence game in 2009. And there, white didn't achieve much. So it was c3, c5, knight f3. And okay, you know, this is just a much more quiet approach. Black had no problems, and the draw was pretty speedy. But, you know, maybe the thing is, you know, after c5, if you play knight f5, I mean, that would be the more testing move. And then the question is whether black would take or not. Perhaps so. So in our game, Gelfand played c5. And now knight f5, of course. Okay, well, what should black do here? There are two moves that are reasonable, but neither is really, I think, what black wanted to play. One move that I'm sure black didn't want to play, I mean, this doesn't require any real psychological insight, or not much, is bishop to f8. But this might even be the best move. And in its defense, I mean, there's the possibility of maybe playing g6 and bishop to g7. So white would be a little bit better after that, but it's still pretty tough to make such a move if you're black. The other move is a little bit easier to play, bishop f5. And in this position, white should be a little bit better, thanks to his bishop here. But again, it's nothing dramatic yet. Well, Gelfand either didn't smell the rat or didn't believe it, and he castled kingside. And it looks like he should be okay. I mean, queen to g4 is aggressive, but after g6, I mean, white is just forced to make the exchange, and it's probably not the end of the world. Actually, after queen g4, I don't think black would do that. He'd probably play just bishop takes f5, and that should be safe enough. So queen g4 is okay, but it's not really the most incisive way for white to play. The move here instead was knight takes g7, and this, I'm sure, was a bit of a shock to Gelfand. I don't know that he overlooked this, but at first glance it seems a little bit hard to take this completely serious, but in fact it's very good. Here Gelfand makes the losing move. So this position is precarious, but it seems that if he plays c4, he can probably survive this. Well, let me put that differently. He won't get crushed immediately. He may not survive in the long run. All right, well, white must play knight to f5 here. Bishop h7 and queen h5 and things like that just don't work. So knight f5, and now we can look at two options for black. The obviously bad one, although it's not quite as bad as you might think at first, is c takes d3. So queen g4 mate, threatening queen g7, or queen g4 check, sorry, threatening queen g7 mate. Bishop g5 is forced, bishop g5, and then black has bishop f5. So this lets him avoid an immediate catastrophe, but still, he's going to wind up 2 pawns down and not happy. So queen to b6, and again, it looks like black can just survive the mating ideas, but it's not very good. All right, so that is not black's best, not his best bet. Instead, after knight to f5, he should play king to h8. And now, for instance, knight e7, queen e7, not cd because of bishop to g5, threatening bishop f6 mate, as well as discovered checks picking up the queen. So here, queen takes e7 is forced, bishop e2, queen e5, and castles, knight c6, rook e1, threatening various discoveries, rook e8, and now this little move bishop to d2 gives white, I think, a clear advantage. The threat is to play bishop takes c4, and on dc4 play bishop c3. Goodbye, black queen. So I think this trick, this idea, gives white a definite advantage. Maybe black can survive to a clearly worse ending, but that's about the best he can do. Or actually not an endgame, but a somewhat more simplified position, down a pawn, and struggling. So it's not a forced win for white, but black's position is really, he's hanging on by his fingertips. Well, that's the best he could have done. In the game, he didn't find the best. He played king takes g7. So Gashimov plays queen h5 with the straightforward threat of queen takes h7 mate. So black's got two real choices here, f5 or rook h8. In the game, he played rook h8, so let's look at f5. So here, we take en passant. If bishop takes, then queen h7 is once again mate, so black has to take with the rook or the king. If he takes with the rook, then queen h7 check, king f8, and bishop to g6, threatening queen h8 mate, as well as bishop to h6 mate. This forces rook takes g6, queen g6. Again, bishop h6 mate is threatened, so bishop f6. And now castles with the idea of rook e1 and then bishop h6, or maybe bishop h6 and then rook e1. Both look effective. And if the black king tries to scoot out before everybody shows up, well, this is not going to succeed either. Ultimately, against best play, here rook to e8 is a winner, because if queen d6, then rook c8 is going to start just cleaning black out of house and home. Alternatively here, just to show one nice variation, if bishop to e7, then bishop f4, just cutting off some of the escape routes. And now, okay, if knight c6, let's look at this. Queen d5 check, king e8, queen h5 check, king d7, rook a to d1 check, knight d4, rook takes d4 check, c takes d4, and now, seemingly out of the blue, queen to b5 is mate. So, it's easy to look at, the e file and d5 and the h3 c8 diagonal, but all of a sudden, mate comes from a completely unexpected and new source, the a4 e8 diagonal. So very, very pretty, and it shows, again, what trouble black is in. Okay, let's go back a ways here. So again, f5 instead of rook h8, and if e takes f6, king takes f6 this time, well, white is again winning, bishop f4, a useful move. And I should say that this general strategy is a very important one. Often when we attack, we look at very forcing moves, and rightly so. You should start by looking at the forcing moves, but sometimes we only look at the forcing moves, and the result is that we go check, 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 and we drive the enemy king to safety. So it's often very important and very useful to cut off the king, to not let it start to run away, but to seal off the exits first, and then to checkmate it within this confined space that it's been restricted to. So after bishop f4, it's going to be a win. So for instance, if king e6, queen h3 check, king f7, queen h7 check, king e8, queen h5 check again, and okay, let's say rook f7, build up here, and after bishop e6, rook a to e1, white seems to be winning in every variation. I gave a couple of nice lines in the PG, and I'll give one of them here. Queen to c8, queen g6, just increasing the pressure on that bishop. Bishop goes back to d7, but now the rook is less defended, and the sixth rank is cleared. So rook takes e7 check, king takes e7, bishop d6 check, and then queen g8 and queen f8 is mate, or I was going to say bishop g6, but then it wastes a move, so queen f8 checkmate. All right, so this gives some nice idea of the problems that face black if he tries f5 here. In the game, Gelfand tried rook to h8, and this comes close, but there is a flaw. Bishop h6 check, well, I shouldn't say a flaw. The flaw was earlier. Here, he's just paying the price. The problem was king takes g7, and before that, castle. Anyway, here, black plays king g8, only legal move. And now, white really needs to have something, because black is on the verge of maybe being okay. I mean, this is perhaps what Gelfand had seen, possibly even before he castled. And maybe he thought that, he got this far and didn't see anything concrete for white and thought that he would survive. But white has a nice resource here that keeps the attack going. e6. So this is crucial. Without it, black is fine. Thanks to it, white is winning. If bishop takes e6, then queen e5, threatening, well, all kinds of mayhem. Queen g3, of course, queen g7 mate straight away. And if f6, queen e6 is mate. So black could try bishop f6. That takes care of one of the threats, but again, queen g3. And after bishop g5, it's just over. The threat is not just to take the queen, but bishop e7 with mate in 2, or bishop to h6 with mate in 2. And if queen a5 check, bishop to d2 is check, and that wins the queen. So this would be game over. All right, so after e6, Gelfand tried f takes e6, giving his king this f7 square for flight, but it's not good enough. By the way, there's a very pretty alternative. Gashimov played queen to g4 check, which is the best move. It's winning. But there's also a very pretty move, bishop to g6, threatening bishop f7 mate. So this wins too. Black's only move here is queen f8, and, well, white takes the queen and wins. You can see a few more details in the PGN. But that lets black survive just a little bit better than the game continuation, but both are ultimately hopeless for him. So queen to g4 check, king f7, queen g7 check, and already here, move 16, Boris Gelfand resigns, because after king e8, queen h8, king d7, white can just trade and play bishop h7. And he's up the exchange and a pawn, and these kingside passers are bound to cause black even more problems and win more material. So a remarkable blowout there by Gashimov. I mean, it looks easy, but it isn't. This is Boris Gelfand. I mean, he had won the World Cup that year, I believe, and was, has been one of the best players in the world for over 20 years. I mean, he's a fantastic player, top 10 guy, and he's getting crushed in 16 moves in one of his favorite openings. So that's a pretty remarkable achievement. And Gashimov, I don't know that he beat anyone else of Gelfand's caliber in 16 moves, but he's won many great attacking games, even against some of the other best players in the world. So a fantastic talent and a real loss to chess, as well as, of course, to his own life and well-being on a more immediate and obvious and important level. So check out his games. He kind of flew under the radar, again, because in part of these gaps in his career, and because I think Radjabov and Mamedyarov were a bit more flamboyant as personalities too, and gathered more attention. But Gashimov was a fantastic player, and again, and also to all accounts, quite a good guy too, very well liked and likable. So that will conclude this. As I said, he's won some other great games, so I might bring up some of these in the future. But for now, this is FIDE Master Dennis Monokroussos signing off with ChessLecture.com. Bye-bye.